Welcome back to the program. Great to have you with me. As always, click the subscribe button, click the like button, click the bell for notifications. Tell your friends and family. Come join in the Frank Roche Show. Nice to have you with me today, Tuesday, March 26th. Bunch of hot topics I have in mind today to talk about. First and foremost, the destruction of the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge, 695 in the inner harbor of Baltimore. Tragic event. Seems to be caused by a loss of power on the part of the ship, who lost propulsion and drifted into supports for the 1.6 mile long bridge. And upon impact, the whole bridge collapsed. Stunning video to watch. And tragic, of course, for the people that were seemingly killed. There were 8 construction workers on the bridge. And I'll quickly point out, first reports on this stuff are always wrong. So based on current reporting, we have maybe 6 people at least dead in the water. Some cars and trucks have gone into the water. No reports on the passengers of those vehicles yet. No apparent injuries on the ship itself. I read reports that the water depth under that bridge can reach as much as 187 feet. You can see the bridge in the water presently, and you can still see some of the bridge above the water level. Not sure what that's about. Could be just low tide. Anyway, horrible event and disruptive event. You know, we're an economics program mainly here at the Frank Roche Show. Public policy, economics, foreign affairs. And the economic consequences here are going to be quite severe. The supply chains for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast are going to be severely disrupted here. The Baltimore port was our 9th busiest port in the country, one of our largest ports for importing vehicles, a port for exporting commodities, grains, sugars, salts. There are some 30 to 40 ships caught in the harbor, some ships outside the harbor that were planning on going into the harbor that now have to be relocated. Other harbors are going to have to step up, and we have to first remove the collapsed bridge and then build a new one. If this was Japan or China or South Korea or some maybe Sweden or Finland or Norway, I would bet this could be done relatively quickly, maybe within a year. No chance here in the United States. We will string this out. Regulations, environmental concerns, design issues, cost overruns, inefficient contractors. Remember the example of we had a partial bridge collapse in Route 95 just south or west of Philadelphia last year, and they were able to replace that span in just a couple weeks, which was pretty impressive for America. I'd love to see a similar thing happen here, but with a guy like Pete Buttigieg as a transportation secretary, I don't have a lot of confidence. The mayor of Baltimore doesn't seem well suited for this task. So we'll hope for the best, but expect disruptions in deliveries, of course. Amazon has a major warehouse in the area, and the flow of goods out of the port and into the port is going to be disrupted for some time. Really meaningful economic event. I've heard some comments that it might be a black swan event, a unique event that changes the trajectory of the economy. So an inflection point for the economy. Certainly not welcome on part of the Biden administration in terms of what they'll deal with moving forward here during the election year. But really, really serious event. It's a Maersk ship, I think, called the Delhi, registered out of Singapore. They have some serious liabilities on their hands. The ship did indicate a mayday prior to hitting the bridge. There's some talk that the actual construction workers that were on the bridge were somehow unhelpful in keeping more cars getting onto the bridge before the ship actually collided. But after they sent the mayday, that would be a wonderful story to hear if that's true. So watch this carefully for economic impacts here. Obviously, could be significantly inflationary. Don't know the critical items that might be moving through this port. Don't know any military consequences for this port, but in the 8 days ahead, we'll get more information on this. But a tragic event. Remember, first reports and events like this are always wrong. So keep an eye on that. But an economic issue here developing in the months and years ahead. One thing that caught my attention was the testimony last week in the Senate, where an Olympian from Alaska was invited to testify by the Democrats as an expert on climate change. And he got exposed brutally, although politely and deliberately, by Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. The young man's name is Gus Schumacher, who was there to testify on the climate crisis. He was invited by Rhode Island Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse. He was exposed very quickly. It was kind of comical to watch. And it was done very deliberately, and a basic quiz for this guy. If you're going to come here and talk to us as an expert on climate change, then you should know what climate change is. And this guy has no idea what climate change is, had no idea. had no idea what he was talking about, had no idea what the climate effects were from climate change, didn't know what CO2 was. I'm using the phrase climate change. I should be saying global warming. I apologize for that. You know, if you've ever watched Senator Kennedy, he does not pull punches. He is deliberate. He's got a very great research staff on his team that prepares him for committee meetings. And it was funny and sad that someone thought that this guy was a climate expert. This guy was talking about the impacts of climate change on recreational use of the outdoors, of nature. And Schumacher described himself as a professional athlete, a concerned citizen troubled with the effects of climate change on our environment and the activities we cherish. And his message was climate change has dramatically changed winter sports and the environment itself, and society needs to invest in renewable energy, sustainable land management practices, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Perfect, right off the script, right off the script. He was asked, was he at the hearing on behalf of Democrats or Republicans? What is carbon dioxide? Why do you want to abolish it? How much of the atmosphere is made up of carbon dioxide? Asked about his past tweets on police and just abolishing the police and defunding the police. So clearly this young man is drank the Kool-Aid of the left and was parroting all of the phrases and words that he was taught to parrot, but didn't understand what he was really saying. He couldn't define what carbon neutral goals were, didn't really know what carbon dioxide was, and actually kept trying to push Kennedy off the questions by saying, this is not why I'm here. I'm here as an athlete giving my story and what I've seen out there in the wilderness. And he seemed a little bit defensive, and Kennedy kept asking him, aren't you here to give advice as a climate expert? And he couldn't do it. Senator Kennedy set him up by saying that carbon dioxide is a huge part of our atmosphere. And of course, not knowing how much of our atmosphere was carbon dioxide, Mr. Schumacher decided to agree with Senator Kennedy. And then, of course, Senator Kennedy let him know right away that it's a small part of our atmosphere, about 0.04%. And so Schumacher says he was not briefed on CO2, not briefed on the numbers to stopping climate change. So kind of comical. And he was pretty pilloried in the social media world, but not uncommon. I guarantee you lots of witnesses are brought before the House and the Senate that were not prepared, that were not experts, but were not exposed in the way that Kennedy exposed this guy. Anyway, a little embarrassing for the young man. He's handling it okay. He doesn't care, but it was fun to watch. Go check it out on YouTube, Senator Kennedy and Guy Shoemaker. Excuse me, Gus Shoemaker. All right, the other news that got my attention today was the farce that is financial engineering today, that are SPACs, special purpose acquisition corporations, and Digital World Acquisition Corporation, and Trump Media and Technology Group with the stock symbol DJT on the NASDAQ. Remember, SPACs, you set up some blank check company who seeks out private companies that they want to bring public. They merge with the companies and then do an IPO later. Was formed for the purpose of effecting a merger, and that merger was with Trump Media and Technology Group, and the asset that they have is True Social, the social media platform Donald Trump created after he was kicked out of Twitter. I mean, just comical. Wealth created out of nothing. They produced nothing, created nothing, haven't made any money, is not engaged in any business operations, has not generated ever any revenue. I'm talking about Digital World Acquisition Corp now. And so it opened today 75, 76 and change. From there, went up to 77.27 and closed the day at $58. Donald Trump is a very much wealthier man, as are lots of other people, including Devin Nunes, former congressman, who resigned from Congress to create and run True Social. True Social is burning about $10 million a year, hasn't made any money yet, has a small number of subscribers, has similarly no traction. But people got wealthy, and Trump is now thinking about adding billions of dollars to his net worth because of this financing scheme we have going on. And this isn't the only one. There's been plenty of SPACs. What a joke. We're creating generational wealth in a matter of a few years on an asset that's created nothing of value, and people are becoming billionaires on it. Other thing got my attention today, that 8 states are now on board banning new gas-powered cars by 2035. You cannot sell them. Cannot sell them. 8 states: Rhode Island, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Washington, District of Columbia, and California. After 2035, you can't buy new gas-powered cars. Net zero. This is all driven by the climate hysteria, the global warming hysteria, based on some computer model that says we have X number of years to make a transition on global warming, or forever human race is in peril and the earth is going to collapse. And it's going to be wrong. Absolutely guaranteed going to be wrong. About 2 years ago, it was 9 years. And so everyone has this early to mid 2030s as the deadline, after which, if we don't do anything, we're all screwed for the rest of our lives. It's going to be absolutely wrong. The computer model, that's a very complex computer model based on assumptions and projections and extrapolations, will absolutely be wrong. And the misallocation of capital and the lack of choice given to consumers in these 8 states was going to blow up in everyone's face. Really, really bad public policy. Not driven by economics, driven solely by ideology. The other thing that got my attention today was a story that I read about the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, trying to block third-party candidates from the 2024 ballot. Not telling people not to vote for them, not arguing that we're a better choice for your vote than they are, but literally trying to block them from being candidates. Now, you may know over the past 3 years, Democrats have been using the word democracy every day, every time they can, as a keystone to their re-election campaign in 2024, related to, of course, the January 6th riots at the Capitol and how democracy was under threat. And so Democrats are the champions of democracy. It's one of the key campaign planks of the platform for President Biden. It's abortion, it's democracy, and it's Donald Trump is a bad guy. And yet the DNC legally is trying to block third-party candidates from getting on the ballots across the country. Think Robert Kennedy Jr., Cornel West, Jill Stein, anyone that might come up on the no labels group. The contradiction is remarkable here. The advocates for democracy, the flag wavers for democracy, and then promising to oppose third-party candidates to protect their efforts to get re-election against Donald Trump. So rather than actually giving voters a chance to pick the candidate they actually want, the DNC wants you not to have more choices, not to have more democracy. And there's going to be a bunch of liberal think tanks, foundations, and PACs that are going to help the DNC in blocking these third-party candidates from getting on ballots. The Democrats are saying that voters can't be trusted to protect democracy. The implicit assumption is that Democrats believe any third-party candidates out there right now are going to hurt President Biden and not hurt President Trump. If these were right-leaning conservative candidates, I guarantee we've been talking about this. But a really interesting juxtaposition about the importance of democracy and that blocking candidates from being part of that democratic process. All right, lastly, let's check in on some data as we always do, check on markets. I spoke to you on Sunday. We had some data yesterday, Monday. New home sales for the month of February, 662,000 on an annualized basis, down 0.3%. Not bad. I'll tell you, in the past couple of weeks, we've seen some decent housing data for the month of February. Existing home sales, new home sales, housing starts, all doing reasonably well in the face of higher interest rates. And I suspect what's happening is this is driven by the corporate money. Remember the World Economic Forum, big reset, the great reset coming after COVID, you'll own nothing. I imagine this is corporations with deep pockets just chasing after each other to buy up real estate that you and I won't be able to buy, but you and I will only be able to rent. Today, Tuesday, we had durable goods orders for the month of February. Durable goods were up 1.4%, a little better than expected, better than last month, January, down 6.9%. So a good number there. Durable goods are goods that last 3 to 5 years or longer, very expensive goods usually. And so there's a lot of volatility in this data point to begin with, because we don't buy these expensive, long-lasting goods on a regular basis each month. But overall, not a bad number. Nothing that's going to cause the Fed to begin to think about cutting rates sooner rather than later. So no change in Fed policy there. Then also we had March consumer confidence from the Conference Board today, the nonprofit out of Washington, D.C. 104.7 was the index. Lower than expected, lower than the prior month. These sentiment indexes, these confidence indexes like the Conference Board Consumer Confidence or the U-Michigan Consumer Sentiment, were doing reasonably well in the third and fourth quarter of 2023. But since that time, they've turned around and started diving down again. That's likely inflation, the job market, but an okay number, not a great number, a reversal of the trend we've seen recently. We'll check in quickly on markets. As always, again, just a little snapshot, just a little snapshot. I'm a CNBC guy. For more details, go to CNBC. You see all the charts you need. S&P 500 closed the day at 5,203.58, down 14. Still near all-time highs. Little sell-off at the end of the day here. Dow Jones Industrial Average 39,282, down 31. Not much happening. Check on the 10-year U.S. Treasury. The yield 4.24%, down 2 basis points for the day, but up from last Friday. We want to see this approach 4.5% as indication that the bond market is focused on inflation. Oil, West Texas Intermediate, NYMEX, $81.36, down 60 cents. Little range bound today. Nat gas, $1.53, down 8 cents. Surprising given what's happening with the bridge collapse. We do have some natural gas assets in that harbor that are going to be corralled as a result of this. Gold trading 2,198, up 20 cents. Again, range bound today, very quiet today. Cocoa, keep an eye on cocoa. Cocoa is out of control. Get ready for Easter chocolates because they are going to be expensive. Cocoa trading 9,624, closed the day down $25. But that's just some profit taking. All-time highs for cocoa. And we look at today, the high today was 10,070. Opened at around 9,647, closed around 9,624. So this has become quite a speculative asset right now. But boy, oh boy, we have drought issues, supply issues. If you ever want to take a look at how cocoa is harvested, you find it's very environmentally unfriendly and takes direct advantage of very, very poor people in the process of creating chocolate for ourselves. And a quick check on currencies. US dollar index 104.32, down small today. Now 103.90 has become support. Dollar strength is still the main theme. Buy dips in the dollar. Dollar yen 151.56, up small today. Sterling against the dollar 126.20, down small today. So again, weaker sterling, stronger dollar. Euro against the dollar, down another 10 today. 108.30, weaker euro, stronger dollar. Primary drivers for currencies are interest rates, but also geopolitical events, speculation. Which reminds me, markets everywhere are driven primarily by speculation, pure speculation. All right, gang, that's all I have for you today. Always try to buy American.